It's been a while. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I'm glad to have you. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. I am coming to you from Portugal. I'm in the Algarve region, which is the southernmost part of Portugal. I have much more to say about that. If you're not following me on Instagram, I talk more about Portugal and share some snapshots of my life here. That's a whole nother video about why I moved from California to Portugal. But today I'm going to be sharing my experience with TMS therapy, otherwise known as Transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy, which is a therapeutic method used for people with major depressive disorder. The FDA just approved it for OCD, and it's also used for anxiety in some cases. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I know I keep saying this. If you've been here, it's like I've been saying I'm going to post every week. And unfortunately, dealing with depression and an international move has been really, really challenging, but things are finally settling down and I'm hoping to produce more weekly content. And I would love to have you along for this journey. And if you're new here and you don't know who I am, my name is Mia Hemstad and I'm a mom of 2 kids. And as I just mentioned, I live with some mental health challenges, depression and PTSD being the main ones. And I'm a self-worth coach. And I run a program called No Longer Last. And you can learn more about all of that stuff with links in the description. But let's go ahead and dive into the video. Okay, so I'm gonna have my phone here to make sure that I stay true to the whole story and make sure that I don't miss anything important, because I really want you to walk away from this video with the information that you need to know if you want to pursue this route for treatment, or if you just were curious and you wanted to make sure you got all your regular questions answered. I asked my Instagram community if they had any questions that they wanted me to address in this video, so I'll be addressing some of those. And that's another good reason to follow me there, because I often do polls in my Instagram stories. I don't post in my feed that much anymore, but if you wanna be able to have a say in polls and stuff, and let you know, I'm having a hard time finding words. If you want me to let you know what videos are upcoming, it's really great to make sure you're either subscribed to notifications here or you follow me on Instagram to get all that. All right, so I'm going to my notes app. Okay, so first things first, what is TMS? TMS stands for Transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy. And I'm going to read you the definition from the Mayo Clinic so that you know what it is. I don't want to just abbreviate it my way, because I'll be like, it's a treatment that kind of hurts a little bit. Okay, so transcranial magnetic stimulation is a non-invasive procedure that uses magnetic fields to stimulate nerve cells in the brain to improve symptoms of depression. TMS is typically used when other depression treatments have not been effective. Okay. It is FDA approved. It's actually been around for a while. I don't remember the exact date, but it has been around for maybe close to 10 years. So it's not new, but for some reason I only heard about it last year, and I've been dealing with extreme depression since 2013. So I'm just hearing about it. And when I posted about, I'll put a picture here, when I posted on my Instagram about undergoing this treatment, there's so much love, so much positivity. Of course, a few people that were like, why aren't you healing yourself holistically? It's just all these weird unsolicited opinions. I'm all about you do what works for you. You find what works for you. If there's anything I'm learning being on this journey of struggling with mental health challenges, it's that it's a journey of a lot of ups and downs. It can be very frustrating to try treatments and spend a lot of money and it not work. So I'm hoping that this video will help you figure out if this is for you. So why did I choose to do TMS? I chose to do TMS because I have PTSD and major depressive disorder. I tried EMDR therapy. I need to make another video about my experience with that. I wasn't able to stick with EMDR for a very long time. It honestly made my nightmares worse, which is one of my symptoms of PTSD. I struggle with chronic nightmares that are so brutal. It doesn't cause insomnia. I don't wake up, but it does make me really exhausted. So I had been going to a different psychiatrist, and have been on so many different meds, especially over the course of 2020 and 2021. Obviously the pandemic and all the stressors that we all were going through. I was really having a hard time with my mental health. And so I saw many different psychiatrists and took many different types of meds. and none of them worked. Honestly, I felt like I was going a little bit crazy because, and I know people don't like that word, but that's how I describe how I felt. I felt like I was losing my mind because of just my body going up and down on all these meds. So I switched from one psychiatrist who was putting me on way too many meds, and I switched to another one who wanted to try one at a time. And it was my experience with this person. I took a med that was specifically for people with PTSD, and it was not working for me. And then I took a medication that was supposed to help me sleep. It was supposed to like knock me out, and that didn't work either. I could do a whole separate video on meds, but just know that I tried a lot of different meds, and the help, according to the psychiatrist I spoke with, I asked her about TMS, but she said you need to try like as many meds as possible because TMS is expensive and it will not be approved. Most insurances will not approve it if you haven't tried a lot of different meds. And I kind of wish she didn't say this because my insurance, like, I mean, granted, I tried a lot of meds at that point, but she made me feel like I needed to do like 3 more kinds of meds before I could even do TMS. But luckily, I just like put my foot down and was like, you know what? I'm not a science experiment. I don't want to do these meds anymore. It's really not working for me. And I decided to just ask my insurance about the coverage instead of allowing the therapist experience to kind of like affect all of my decision making. And I'm not hating on like the fact that like my experience with psychiatrists so far has been pretty negative. I think everybody's doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. And I think the psychiatrists that I saw were just like prescribing what they knew was most effective for the stuff they were seeing. But at some point, the psychiatrist didn't really know what to do because I wasn't responding to any of the meds. So she labeled me treatment resistant. And that pretty much got me into TMS immediately. And like I said, even though I thought I needed to be labeled treatment resistant before getting on TMS, when I contacted my insurance, basically they were like, oh no, you only need to try one med, like one medication. If one depression medication doesn't work for you, then you can do TMS. So all this is to say, call your insurance and get the facts, because a lot of times people will tell us their experience, but that might not be your experience. And in America, at least in the United States, everybody has different insurance policies with different requirements and different benefits. And so it's really important, and I know it can be really hard and overwhelming if you struggle with depression, if you can have a friend or a partner or somebody help you with this. But calling your insurance, preparing a list of questions, being patient, getting your questions answered, writing down the answers so you don't forget, so that you know what actually is going on. One of the things I see happen a lot is like, because healthcare professionals see a lot of different scenarios with insurance, they kind of create their own story of what insurance will and will not cover. And that's what we all do as humans. We create stories, but that story might not be accurate to your situation. So don't let it affect you completely. I'm really glad I just kind of like put my foot down with this psychiatrist and said, listen, I've been on like 7 different meds in the last year. It's wreaked havoc on my body and my mind, and I just want to try something else. One of the cool things about TMS is it has a really high success rate. I believe it's like 60% of patients that go through TMS see a remission in their depression symptoms. And I believe like 30% have their symptoms like dramatically reduced. So I was pretty optimistic about this and I wanted to try it out. Another reason why I decided to do TMS, and I did it last year, November through December, is because I had an insurance policy that was actually going to cover most of it, which was really great. That being said, it was still very expensive. And it was a huge financial investment, and I know how hard it is to spend money on yourself, and especially when it's this expensive. But I decided to take a leap because I was really, really suffering at that time. My sleep challenges were so bad. I was dealing with extreme fatigue, and I had a really hard time just like thinking and making basic decisions. So that's a really long explanation for basically why I chose to do TMS, because obviously even though TMS is considered a very safe treatment, it still comes with a lot of nerves. Trying anything for our health, whether it be mental or physical, can be really nerve-wracking. So I just want to say like, be discerning and like know what you're getting yourself into. But I have to say that if you can financially afford it and you are struggling with depression, it's worth a shot, because just from the clinical trials alone and from the data that's out there and the studies that are out there, TMS is very effective for a lot of people. So yeah, that's why I chose to do TMS. And now we're going to get into what did the treatment involve. And this is going to answer one person's Instagram question. I'm going to put her question here. Somebody asked, like, when did you receive the treatment? like how often, or do you get it as needed? So the treatment is an intensive treatment, and it was 6 weeks long, 6 weeks straight. So for 6 weeks straight, I had to drive to this treatment facility 5 to 6 days a week, depending, because we had to shove 36 treatments into 6 weeks because my insurance was going to expire. So some weeks I did 6 days straight, some weeks I did 5 days straight, and this was also during the holiday season. So it was like they were trying to cram treatments in like around Thanksgiving, and the team there was really nice. I don't remember. I think they're called Greenbrook TMS in Irvine, California. So if you're interested in looking up a TMS facility, I think there's a lot of them, but Greenbrook is where I went. And they were really great. Like, people came in on like New Year's Eve to make sure I got treatment, and they were just really, really great. And I recommend it if you live near Irvine, California, or you want to work with Greenbrook. Obviously not sponsored or affiliated in any way. So yeah, know that it's not like an as needed thing. It's like a 6 week commitment. And that's the challenging part, is like, if you have a lot of commitments or a job or something, it's going to be really difficult to do this. I had just left a job and was moving into becoming my own. I run my own business now. So it was like a really good time to commit to this, because again, I had to like drive 30 minutes, do an hour-long treatment, and then drive back home and then do it again 36 times. So it is a huge time commitment. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. Instagram, there's another Instagram question regarding pain. Somebody asked if it was painful. And I would say at first, yes, it was painful. Basically, again, what they do is like they're putting like an electronic energy into your brain. And so it feels like a really strong zap. And I think, of course, anxiety can make your pain feel worse. And so that was also a component in the first week or two, because it was so new to me. My body was a little bit freaking out about it, and it was causing me to like have a lot of pain. But also the technicians told me that there's a certain range of power, like they call it a power. So like 10 is a power and 70 is a power. And that's like the different levels that you put the electronic the electronic signal, so that it causes a nerve response. So like basically they would like put it at 50, for example, and then they would turn it on. And when they turned it on, they would look to see if my hand twitched. And if my hand didn't twitch, then they're like, oh, your body's not, like, your nervous system's not responding to this, so we need to up the power. So they would keep upping the power until they saw my finger twitch, and my finger had to twitch at that power like 3 times for them to say, okay, this is your power for your treatment, where we know we're getting a response and it's stimulating your nervous system. And again, I could be wrong in the way that I'm describing this, but this is how it felt to me. And then the technicians told me that the power that they have to put it at to get a nerve response from me is higher than like any patient they've ever had, which I really wish they didn't tell me that, because it made me feel upset that I always seem to have like these things where they're like, yeah, like we've never seen this before. We have to put it up really high so it might hurt because it's really high. I would say that's the only thing that I would criticize about my experience with Greenbrook is like, don't tell an anxious and depressed patient that they have to go through it worse because their depression is so bad that they're not getting any nervous system response. So that was fun. But yeah, they said that if it was hurting, it's because it's really the power super high. But I do have to say that after I started to relax, they were able to like relax into the treatment and like know what to expect. My anxiety decreased, and so did my pain my pain experience. And so I would say 2 weeks into treatment, sorry, I'm losing my words. This is what sleep deprivation does. And I usually cut this out of my videos, but I'm just going to keep it in. I want you guys to know like I'm really living this, and it's okay to like show up imperfectly. Anyway, that's a side note. So let me look at my notes here again. Oh yeah, so once I knew what to expect, my anxiety decreased, and they were able to lower the power of the treatment so that it was less painful. So when it was at its most painful, what would happen is the electronic magnet would zap you for about, I would say 5 to 10 seconds. So it's not like you're sitting there for an hour and it's just like zzz for an hour. It's like zzz, zzz. It's like 10 seconds on or 5 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So you get breaks. And when it was really intense, my jaw would involuntarily clench. So I needed to keep my tongue out of the way, because if I was like moving my tongue around in my mouth, I would involuntarily bite down on my tongue, because you can't control like what your jaw does like when the treatment's happening. So just know that it's not an hour of like intensiveness. It's more like on and off, on and off. But that being said, I would say another question I got from Instagram was, are there side effects? The only side effect you really get is like a headache if you are like really sensitive. I only got a headache like twice. No, maybe like 4 times. And I had to take ibuprofen to help with that. And also light sensitivity. But those are like, that's just my experience. And with like, because I heard that some people don't get this, but I think because my power was so high, this happened to me. And I'm also just regularly prone to getting migraines. So I kind of knew that was going to be a factor. But yeah, that was pretty much it for side effects. And I think if I was able to take a nap right after, it would have been beautiful if I could have just like went to treatment and took a nap. But usually I would go to treatment and then I would get work done and I would go home, take care of my kids and like clean the house and do stuff and work more and get them ready for bed and make dinner, because I'm a mom. So we do the best we can, right? And that was pretty much how I handled that. But yeah, just know that the side effects were pretty minimal in my experience. Oh yeah, another thing I want to point out with my TMS experience is that the technicians and the doctor are advised to keep as much of your lifestyle as consistent as possible during the treatment. So go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, try to prioritize sleep. I also was required to eat breakfast every morning before treatment and hydrate and drink water. They want to make sure that your brain is like working as optimally as possible. Like you are improving all those factors that are related to your mental health. So sleep, eating well, hydration, keeping stress to a minimum, and try to maintain that for the 6 weeks you're doing treatment. This enables them to obviously be able to evaluate if the treatment's helping you and improving your mood. And then every morning before treatment started, they would ask me these questions to get a baseline. How's your mood? How's your sleep? Rate out of 1 to 10. And so that you can see if the treatment's helping you. Another question I got was, did the treatment work? So this was a question I got. I don't remember who gave it to me, but thank you for your question. And the answer is no. This is really sad. I wish it did work. It was a lot of time and a lot of money and just a lot of inconvenience, but I have to conclude that the treatment did not work for me. The reason why I say that is because I'm still depressed and I'm still struggling with extreme anxiety and I'm still dealing with nightmares. And obviously that's disappointing, and maybe I haven't fully grieved that or processed that frustration that I'm like, how many years into this? 9 years into dealing with depression, and I haven't been able to find a way to deal with it. And if anything, it's gotten worse. And yeah, that's really frustrating, and it didn't work. And like they have that data as well. So I would say if the treatment was 6 weeks long, let me put this phone down. The treatment was 6 weeks long, and for the first 3 weeks, I would say my mood was like improving. And I can't really say that was just because of the TMS. I don't know exactly, but I do know that my sleep was like improving just before I started TMS. So I had this really brief season that lasted only 3 weeks where I was actually sleeping really well, and I hadn't slept that well in years. And I would wake up at 6 a.m. before my alarm, and I would literally feel my brain like light up and wake up as if I was like, I'm trying to like recall the feeling. Just the feeling of feeling awake when you wake up, instead of feeling like you've been hit by a truck and you're exhausted and your brain hurts, which is usually how I wake up. And my sleep was improving. There were a variety of like positive things that had happened, and I think that it affected my mental health. I felt supported and cared for in a way I hadn't in a long time, and it resulted in me sleeping better for about 3 weeks. And then life stressors started picking up halfway through my treatment, and then my mood dipped down considerably. My nightmares came back with a vengeance, and that's how I finished off my treatment, unfortunately. So doing the TMS, like I didn't really experience it increasing my mood or improving my mood. What I did experience was there were 3 weeks where I was sleeping well, before I even started TMS, the sleep started improving. If my sleep started improving after I started TMS, then I would say, yeah, I think TMS improved my sleep. But my sleep was already improving like a week before I started TMS. So my sleep started improving, and then halfway through TMS, my nightmares came back. And I didn't see TMS affect my sleep. Obviously, TMS is not a treatment for nightmares, so that makes sense. I was hoping that by doing TMS and by treating the depression, that maybe that would also improve my nightmares or lessen them. And also, and I don't know if this is kind of under the table, but they also did a treatment for anxiety. So they did a treatment for depression and a treatment for anxiety. Like they sent electromagnetic signals in one side of my brain for depression and then on the other side of my brain for anxiety. I don't fully understand how it works, but they were treating both. And I thought, this is great. Maybe if my anxiety and depression are being treated, it will improve my sleep and lessen my nightmares. That did not happen for me. So yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is just my experience and maybe it could work for you. Don't throw it in the trash as an option, if you can afford to do it. I think it's worth a try, especially if you've tried a lot of other things that have just not worked for you. And so I am kind of at a point in my mental health journey where I was doing really good when I was taking medication, and then the medication stopped working, and then we increased the dose and there was no change. And then I've tried 5 different or 6 different meds since then, and none of those worked. And then I tried TMS and that didn't work, and I tried EMDR and that didn't work. So I'm really at a point in my mental health journey where I am feeling kind of low, because it's whenever I have some sort of support, I'm like, okay, there's hope. Maybe this will work. Maybe this can help me. And a lot of that is not existent, at least in the traditional mental health field, in the medical field, like psychiatry and things like that. And so I just want to be real. And, if you're interested in following this journey of how I'm going to climb myself out of this season of depression that I'm in, stay tuned, because my channel is, meant to be a place of authenticity and honesty. And, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm struggling with my words. And it's because I am really, 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 really tired. I've been dealing with some pretty extreme nightmares since November, and it is April. I will say though, since moving to Portugal, I have had a few nights where I've slept better than I have, but it's not consistent. One final note on the treatment not working. I was going through treatment in November and December. And in November and December are Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And I, like a lot of people, have a lot of significant traumatic memories around that time. Horrendous traumatic memories. That weren't just once, that happened year after year after year around those holidays. So I think my PTSD was in full blast. And actually, when my nightmares became more severe, it was around that time. It was right around Thanksgiving, leading up to Thanksgiving, and all through the end of December. So, I talked with the doctor about treatment after I was finished with my 6 weeks. And, I told her about my sleep issues with PTSD, and she was like, yeah, sleep is a foundational component of good mental health. If you're not sleeping well, then TMS, I probably wasn't a good candidate for TMS. But for whatever reason, they took me anyway, even though I wasn't a great candidate. I don't know if that was a financial thing, because they already called me and asked me if I wanted to do another round. And I was like, why would I want to do another round if the first round didn't work and it was already very expensive and time consuming? So I think they need to do a better job of how they approach that, because they knew that my treatment didn't work and they called me asking to do more treatment. So that wasn't very considerate, I don't think. But yeah, so maybe it was doomed to fail because it was Thanksgiving and Christmas and I have a lot of trauma around that time. But again, even mental health professionals only know so much about the brain. They only know so much about mental health conditions. And I would say especially around conditions like PTSD, particularly complex PTSD, which is also abbreviated as c-PTSD, which is where you don't just have it's not one traumatic event that caused your PTSD, but hundreds, maybe thousands over the course of your life, which is what I have. So researchers and mental health professionals are still studying this, and there's a lot that people don't know. So I'm not mad at anybody involved. I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful for the privilege of even being able to do TMS. Like, that is such a privilege. A few years ago, I couldn't afford a single therapy session. So I'm in a much different place. A few years ago, I was working from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. and then being a full-time stay-at-home mom all day long and a full-time caregiver for my brother who was very sick at the time. So to even have had the time and space to drive somewhere every single day and spend 3 hours every single day basically going to treatment, getting treatment, recovering from treatment for 6 weeks is a huge blessing, a huge privilege. Like, I do not take that for granted. And I'm so glad that at least I know that I tried it, that I was able to try it. It was accessible to me finally. And I know that that option is now like off the table. I won't sit here and wonder like, well, I bet you if I could have just did TMS, like this could be better, or I could be better by now. I know that I tried it and it didn't work. And so now we can move on to the next thing. And, you know, I'm not saying this to be toxically positive. Like, this is genuinely how my brain tends to work. Thank God, at least I have worked really hard and done a lot of inner work to be able to simultaneously hold grief and gratitude at the same time. It doesn't need to be one or the other. Like, I can be grateful for things and I can be grieving. I can be angry about things and I can be happy about certain things. And that's just being human, I think. And so I thought, well, at least I can share my experience with someone out there and they can decide for themselves what they want to do with it, you know? So I know this is a really long video and I just want to say thank you for getting to the end of it. I think I answered the questions I got on Instagram. I just wanted to double check really quickly about, oh yeah. So I wanted to touch on what I'm going to do next, which I kind of already started talking about because I don't want to just end this video with, well, I've been labeled treatment resistant by a psychiatrist and TMS has not worked, and I've tried many therapy modalities, and to be honest, right now I'm actually looking for a therapist, but I'm not at a place yet where I can like afford weekly therapy. It's so expensive, and I do not have mental health insurance. As you all know, like, getting health insurance that covers mental health stuff is really challenging, and I'm now fully self-employed. And I know that being self-employed can sound super sexy and whatever, but I have to say that because I'm a stay-at-home mom, because I have chronic fatigue, chronic pain, nightmares, exhaustion, all this stuff, depression, anxiety, I need to work for myself because then I can like easily adjust my schedule, move meetings, be flexible with myself, work when I have energy. The whole 9 to 5 corporate America thing was increasing my anxiety because I just have days where I cannot get out of bed, but corporate America needs you to be at your desk by 9. And I just couldn't do that anymore. That model didn't work for me. And there was a lot of grief and shame around that because I'm like, why can't I just be like everybody else? But I have since turned that into how can I work for myself? And I've been building that up over the last 5 years. And now I finally am working for myself. That being said, things are still tight. I'm still trying to figure out the whole self-employed getting insurance thing. And I'm just being transparent about it because it's like, I know some people are like, how are you like in Portugal and like all of this stuff. And I'm going to do a whole video on that. But long story short, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is like living in Portugal is actually really affordable compared to where I lived in the US. And it has a lot of other check boxes. So I'm hoping to like get settled here and, you know, bring in more clients and start to afford therapy again. And what else am I trying to do? I'm trying to also rebuild my routines. An international move has not been easy. It's actually been extremely challenging for some reasons I won't say right now, but I will share later because I think we need to be honest. Travel is not all bliss. It really isn't, especially not when you have 2 small kiddos. So a lot of my routines and rituals that were really grounding for me, I've lost them because I've completely left my old space and let go of a lot of things, tools that I had. So yeah, what's next for me is rebuilding my routines, trying to, you know, improve my financial situation so I can afford a therapist, and trying to create systems in my business so that it's easier for me to like get my work done and still like show up for my kids. And another thing I'm trying to do is find affordable childcare because again, like I think as moms, we forget how much not having that support with our children can affect our mental health because we're literally on all the time for everyone. I mean, there's not a moment in the day that my kids are not asking me for something. And although like I've trained them to know that they're not going to get what they ask for right away, it doesn't stop them from asking. It doesn't stop them from having needs. They will always be needing all the time. So that's another thing on my list, find affordable childcare. And all of these steps pertain to your mental health, right? It's not just, I'm looking for a therapist, I'm gonna get back on medication. I don't know. Like, I don't know when those things will happen. And I think we need to normalize the fact that supporting your mental health doesn't always have to look like therapy and medication. Although if you can do those things and you wanna do those things, more power to you. Those are on my list. But please also know that supporting your mental health can be getting childcare set up so that you have that every day or whenever you got that set up. It's creating systems in your work so that you're not so overwhelmed every day at work or with your business. It's developing routines so that you're moving your body every day and making sure that you're ordering groceries in advance so that you have the healthy food you need on hand and you're eating better and not just scarfing cookies in the pantry when you need lunch. All of those things, like working on my business, like bringing in more clients, that's going to improve my financial situation, which, as many of us know, money trauma is a huge thing. I know it is for me in my journey, and creating financial stability and security really feeds my soul. It really helps me. And I think we also need to normalize conversations about that because money affects all of us. It affects your ability to even get mental health care. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. I'm also looking for an apartment so that I can finally get settled. We've been staying in Airbnbs. But yeah, I wanted to end on that note because I want you to know that it's not just TMS didn't work, I'm hopeless, this is hopeless, there's nothing I can do. There's always more that you can do, there's always more that we can do, and I just encourage you not to give up on yourself, and I want you to know that I have also really been going through it. So if you've been really feeling like down and exhausted from the fight that is living with depression, anxiety, PTSD, or any mental health condition, and you're just tired of the fight, you're tired of fighting, I want to remind you to rest. This will pass, it will get better, and you will find the support that you need to feel better. We will. I really do believe it, and I know it's hard. It's been really hard for me personally right now, and you're not alone. We're not alone in this, and it's just so important to not quit. Like, I have been hearing those voices recently. It's like, you've been trying long enough, nothing's working, just give up. I've been hearing that. Please don't be alarmed. Like, I'm very cognizant and aware of like suicidal ideation and like making sure I get help if that happens. But just, the depressing thoughts of like, you're hopeless. This is a hopeless cause. You're a hopeless cause. And I know to respond to that and go, you know what? These things I've tried may not have worked, but I have not exhausted all my options. And as long as there is breath in my body, I will keep going. So thank you for watching this video, because creating and making art during this time, when I'm depressed and when I'm doing great, it feeds my soul. It helps me to keep going. It's so great to have an outlet, to know that what I'm going through is helping other people, and to create art in hard times, because processing things audibly helps me a lot. So I'm grateful to you for holding space for me and for listening to me, and just being here is a huge support. So I hope you got something out of this video. I know I did by creating it. And again, if you enjoyed it, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel and put notifications on. This is going to be a great journey. I have so many videos planned, and I finally have more space now that I'm living in Portugal, more time and space to create consistently. And I know that my heart needs that as an anchor as well. So thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye now.